And this is the advantage of having a Kyle Shanahan system who has the perfect quarterback for that system. And he has engineered a system that doesn't have your quarterback have to make the type of plays that a Patrick Mahomes is going to have to make. Garoppolo has only gone over 300 yards passing one time, three times. Two of which came against the Arizona Cardinals. Like those are and then the other one came in the shootout against the Saints.
Which was his best game as a pro.
Clearly.
He was exceptional.
And the most impressive aspect of that game to me was not the over 400 yards passing. It was the fourth quarter drive when they were behind and he needed to put the team on his back. And he showcased to me a poise and a composure that said, the moment is not too big for me. And that is important for a quarterback to have, especially here. Now, this clearly is going to be a different stage. He's going to have to be efficient on third downs and in the red zone. And then here's where they're going to need him to be a difference maker. One or two plays in the Super Bowl for the 49ers to win, Garoppolo is going to have to do something off the script. Where maybe it's by a split second, a little bit extra time. Maybe it's getting out in a scramble. You recognize man coverage and you get that extra 15 yards. Maybe it's a play like John Elway had in the Super Bowl where he's the helicopter, right? And he was not a runner, but that was a difference-making play. You're not gonna need many. Just one or two from Garoppolo. An efficient game, that's all they need from him.
So I understand what you're saying, and I think that is what the Niners hope for.
Right.
I think the Niners don't think they can win the Super Bowl with him throwing 8 passes, but they certainly hope he doesn't have to throw 38 passes. They hope that this is a 18 of 25 game for Jimmy Garoppolo where he makes a couple big plays. Like that, they would sign up for that immediately, especially if those couple big plays are for his team as opposed to going the other way for the Kansas City Chiefs. The last quarter century of Super Bowls, though, tells us when you have this big of a quarterback mismatch, you need that quarterback to step up majorly if you're going to win. I went through it before the show because I think everyone would agree Mahomes versus Garoppolo is the biggest mismatch on the field this week. I know they won't be on the field at the same time. Steve Young versus Stan Humphries. Team with a better quarterback won. Troy Aikman against Neil O'Donnell. Better quarterback. John Elway against Chris Chandler. Tom Brady against Jake Delhomme. Remember that Super Bowl back in '03? Peyton Manning against Rex Grossman. The only time in the last quarter century we've had this type of quarterback mismatch and the inferior quarterback won was Nick Foles over Tom Brady. And that was when Nick Foles was coming off the best game of his season in the NFC Championship game, 350, 3 touchdowns, a 140 rating, and then maybe trumped that in the Super Bowl, throwing for 370 and 3 touchdowns, and being a part of the Philly special, doing all of that. There isn't a lot of precedent for the Niners saying we are going to try to just have our quarterback be a supporting character and them being able to win. There's a lot of precedent for teams going into the Super Bowl saying that's our plan. I know that was the Rex Grossman Bears plan. Let's have it be a special teams game, a defense game, all these things. But they didn't do enough to win those games. And so I think for the Niners to beat the Chiefs, they don't need Garoppolo to outplay Patrick Mahomes, but they need Garoppolo to play far better than we've seen him play in this postseason, obviously. And they need him to at least give them a B-plus level performance because I didn't think the Titans could hold the Chiefs under 35. I don't think the Niners can hold them under 28. So how do you get around 30 points for San Francisco? If the Chiefs aren't turning the ball over a bunch like Green Bay, then you're going to have to do more through the air than they were able to do in the conference championship game.
Agree. I hear your point, but there have been other quarterbacks who have been the, quote, game manager role and won Super Bowls, but you're saying the quarterback disparity in those games. When Trent Dilfer wins with the Ravens, it's Kerry Collins versus, and so there wasn't Kerry Collins MVP type player on the other side of the ball.
Exactly right. Brad Johnson, Rich Gannon. I know Rich Gannon had played well, but
he was in the MVP conversation.
Sure,
Rich
and
Gannon
he had won one once in his career, but I still think people didn't look at it as such a massive disparity as we're seeing right
and
now.
This one clearly is that. I would say you could bump up. What would you say, 15 of 28?
I said 18 of 25.
18 of 25. I think you could bump that up a little bit. I don't think they would be opposed to 35 attempts. I just don't think you can get more than 35 out of him. But he did do it with Drew Brees. in the Superdome, which was pretty impressive, but that's not the type of game you could rely on. But I do think it should be at least a little bit comforting if you're a 49ers fan saying, at least we did that once. But I don't think you can get in a shootout and hope to, your chances of winning would dramatically be reduced the more times Garoppolo has to throw the football.
Well, the Packers aren't the Chiefs, but Kyle Shanahan showed that he's not afraid to just keep running the ball. And do you think that could possibly be the game plan moving forward, where he doesn't not need to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, I think it's very, I don't want to say easy, but I think it's easier to continue running the football, A, when you're gashing the other team for 7 yards a carry, but B, when the other team has multiple first-half turnovers and you're playing from ahead. I think you saw the Titans, who had a running back that was on as good of an 8-game run as we've ever seen in this league, get scared out of running the football the moment the Chiefs took the lead. Chiefs didn't have to go up by double digits. They went up by 4, and they scared the Titans out of their game plan because they were, I know in the back of their head, they were like, man, Chiefs are going to keep scoring. They're going to keep scoring. Now, of course, this game changes if Nicky Bosa comes around, strip sacks Mahomes, and they jump out and play their style of game. Mahomes never had a playoff turnover. The Super Bowl would be one hell of a time for that streak to end. And so that's the question. Whose terms is this game going to be played on?
Right, and clearly the 49ers are going to want to dictate those terms early and often. But I thought one of the most underrated aspects of the game was Andy Reid, when they had the lead, was like, all right, you guys want to slow play this game? We'll slow play it, and we'll start running the football. I mean, they had an unprecedented stretch there where they were running it 4 or 5, 6 times in a row. Yeah, you did, but it was actually really smart because I think the Titans started to press a little bit, said, man, that clock is running. We have to start getting more aggressive because the time is running out on us. I think that was a brilliant aspect. And plus, they were rushing 3 and dropping 8, so it was like, hey, we're daring you to run, and they did.
All right, got to take a break. The only storyline running parallel to the Super Bowl right now, what is Tom Brady going to do? Coming up, do the Patriots actually need Tom Brady more than he needs them?
Trucks built to serve.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jen Wolf. That is Nick Wright. Danny Cannell is with us this morning.
What up, DK?
What's going on? How are we doing today?
All right. We are great. We are only 2 weeks away from the Super Bowl. There are a ton of storylines to dive into this morning. And we're going to start on your corner, Nick Wright, with the Kansas City.
That Tom said to me was just to stay with the process and keep being who I am. And that's something that's important as a guy who's had so much success every single year he's been in the NFL, is that he goes out there every single day and he treats it like it's the most important day. And so that's something that I'll try to do for my entire career.
Nick, when you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, what he's done so far in such a short amount of time, do you think he could eventually overtake Brady as the greatest of all time?
I think it's such a fascinating question because at first blush, you say, well, on one side of the ledger, you've got Patrick Mahomes, who I think a lot of people are already starting to say might be the most talented, physically gifted quarterback, checks every box we've ever seen. On the other side, you've got Tom Brady, whose resume, winning resume to go along with the statistical resume, almost assuredly will never be matched. And you would say, well, then no, it's impossible. He has amazing numbers to go along with 9 Super Bowl appearances and 6 championships. No one will ever do that again. That I'm very confident in. But does that mean no one could ever, through the lens of history, overtake him as the greatest quarterback ever? Danny, I think it could happen because we have seen it happen in another sport. Bill Russell, when he retired, had more MVPs than anybody ever, had 11 championships in 13 seasons. He even had his version of Brady Manning was Russell Wilt, where there was another guy in the same era who a lot of people thought, well, he should be better than Bill. He's more physically gifted. He can do more, yet this guy won more. This guy was more well-respected by his peers as far as who the best of the era was. And when Bill Russell retired, I imagine if these types of shows existed, the conversation would have been, well, he will go down in history, no matter how long history goes, as the greatest ever. He has 11 championships. He has 5 MVPs. But right now in 2020, do you ever hear anyone say Bill Russell is the GOAT? Even if maybe you should make the argument. People say Jordan passed him, LeBron passed him. Some people say Kareem, even Magic. Some guys have him outside of the top 5. So I say all that to say this. If Patrick Mahomes wins a handful of rings, he doesn't have to win 6, and continues to do things on the field we've never seen anyone else do, is it plausible? Is it on the board? Yeah, it's on the board. Is it a less than 10% chance? Of course, but I can't I can't just dismiss it as impossible because I do think it's impossible he gets the 6 championships.
You know, I think we have to be careful because, you know, watching a lot of shows, listening to a lot of shows yesterday, it was almost there was this contest of who could rave the most or who could make the most outlandish statement about how great Patrick Mahomes is going to be. And I don't want to be in that camp. And even like now on the fly, I think you make a really good case about